G'day guys, it's the Clevo King here. I've got something cool today. Should I hold the head up, bro, for the scene? Like
Go.
to make it real good?
Go hold it up, bro. Have a bit of a go, yeah. Be careful. There's steel. Yeah. Try to look like you're not training.
Hang on. Oh, let's get this good.
Yep.
G'day guys, Clevo King here. We've got a Cleveland here today with all the fours. 4V, 4 bolt, 4MA. It's not every day you get to muck around with stuff like this. I've got a 4 bolt, 4MA, 4V closed chamber engine that's been race prepped all the way back in 1974 with a Hank the Crank oiling manifold system. Guys, this was the first time that you could get a Cleveland to rev beyond 9,000 RPM without sacrificing main bearings. It's a really cool bit of kit. It wasn't easy to get your hands on back then, especially these days. So this is what you could refer to as a bit of a stock car style engine, or pro stock as they say, a bit of a race motor. If you come over here and have a bit of a look at this piston, you'll see it's sticking out beyond top. It's got a set of closed chamber heads. The engine is out of a US car, so no numbers on the block here, but it's a D2A ECA casting, 4 bolts on all 5 mains. It's got thick pan rails and extra webbing underneath. Quite a cool block. It's got upgraded rod bolts and it's been balanced. What I was going to say, well, there's the compressor again, guys. Great. Alright, what I was going to say is this kit came out in 1974. You could only get this kit if you were an existing customer of Hank the Crank. Now, Hank the Crank was one of the pioneers that did the offset grind strokers using the cranks that came out factory, so doing the 363s, the 377s, everything in between, and even de-stroking in some cases. So what this kit compromises of is, well, this what they refer to as a manifold, which there's a little boss drilled in there to locate, and this actually gets oil from the filter straight up over into the right lifter gallery. These days, with all of the oiling system mods and everything behind Cleveland's, this one kind of defies the knowledge that's out there today, how people use restrictors in the mains and do other little things like lifter bushing. And obviously one good thing you'll probably just noticed before is they've opened up the intake manifold floor here right up, and they've contoured it so that there's really good oil flow onto the camshaft lobes and to get the oil back down to the bottom end. So a little bit of back history here quickly before I describe the engine anymore. A lot of the 4V and 4 bolt cars that came out were in GDs, GDHOs and like Boss Mustangs and stuff like that, and a lot of the engines failed early, prematurely, because of oiling issues, because they were built so well that they would rev like crazy, but they had a problem of getting all of the oil out of the sump and sending it up, and it would get trapped in the heads and it would get trapped in the intake valley here, and there would be not enough oil in the sump and it would run dry, and then there would be damage. And it didn't really happen straight away, but it would happen, and the more sustained high RPM and the more people pushed it. So the rule of thumb was really not to turn a Cleveland past 7,000 RPM. Some guys were going 7,500 or so. This kit came out in 1974 and it kind of revolutionized all of that. This kit in conjunction with the right set of heads can help a Cleveland see 9,000 to 9,500 RPM sustained. And there's a couple of things here that are really unique about the system, and it's really interesting to see they've tapped some lines in through the block that come up, that cross over into these lines here, and they've even put a little, like a feedback loop over to the back here. So this would be probably the first time you've seen an oil return line like what a lot of guys are selling online these days and in kit form, but instead of it coming out of here, which is what they're offering, this one comes out of the filter body. So it's pretty cool. It's probably the first time that was ever used on a Cleveland would be on one of these setups. Now this is a very, very rare engine, guys. This is something you just don't find. You can't get your hands on something like this. It's pretty cool. I'll show you the heads. Let's have a bit of a look at the heads over here. They're 4V. They've got 7/16 screw-in studs. They've got a original C9, so like a Ford guide plate on them. They're running a double valve spring. They've got a really good retainer on them, like a really good retainer, and they're heavily ported, like incredibly ported. They've not really done too much to the exhaust, but on the intake, well, yeah, let's have a bit of a look at the chambers there, guys. Combustion chambers. Each chamber's numbered, so we've got 7, 6, 5, 8. All of the valves have a little number on them, and they're all numbered in. Everything's all keyed in to match. Something I noticed when I was looking at these heads is there's normally a thumbprint on the bottom of heads. So give me 1 second, I've got a head right here. Now, when you're looking at a set of heads for sale, guys, you want to check this out. This little indentation here, or the thumbprint. Now, they're around 33, 35 thou. The shallower this gets, the more that the head's been skimmed or decked. And the more that you skim or deck the head, you can start to potentially throw out your intake manifold angles and stuff like that, or increase compression drastically, which makes power, but then you're going to need a really stable fuel, combustible source to keep that running. So that's just a little tip there when you're looking at heads. The little thumbprint. Alrighty, there's another little tip I can show you really quickly here, guys. Have a look at this block here. See these indentations? Now, whoever's done this engine, particular attention into putting them back in, because that's something that the blocks have when they're sanded, and when you punch them out 30 they pretty much disappear, so they definitely wouldn't have been that deep. But come over here for 1 second, and I've got this sanded bore block just chilling, and have a look at these notches. They're quite well pronounced, and this is what you want, guys, because in conjunction with the 4V valves being larger, the tip of the valve against the cylinder here gets a little bit hot spotted. So when you do this, you unshroud the valve and you free up not only just a little bit of horsepower, but the valve can remain a lot cooler, and it's on both sides. You've got to be mindful if you're running a different style piston that your top ring land is not going to interfere with that scallop if you're putting it back in. So if you're redoing a engine with a factory style piston, you should be right, but just do a bit of homework, double check. Don't go putting those in. If it goes too low below the top ring land, you're gonna do yourself a mischief. And yeah, there's a couple of little,
So that's the standard tiny holes.
and see how it's got a
Completely
square
still.
edge so the oil won't flow back. And have a look up the front here how shocking these are when they punch them out. You know, guys, the funny posts of people going, is my block broken, is it a hole in the block, all the time. It's hilarious. Sure, we've all seen those and had
All
a bit
the
of
new
a laugh.
guys
But
stick
listen, we all had to start somewhere. So basically, you get in here and smooth that right out, grind that down. That makes a
all
big
good.
deal.
Have a look at this. Absolutely beautiful. Look at that. That's how it's done. Oh, you just want to touch it.
They've ground that down there a bit, and I'll try and get a bit of light in there for you so you can see. Beautiful. Yep. And they've cleaned up a little bit of the side of the block over here, gotten rid of some grinding marks and some flashing to help with oil drain back. Over this side they must have thought it was pretty good. Yeah.
Super rare just to be able to lay your hands on something so rare like this. It's actually super cool. This is what we love about Fords.
Something like this
Nostalgic. It's like, you know, right up there for like the pro stock.
I've been meaning to get it out and make a bit of a video on it for a while.
Crazy.
So let's have a look at this head over here. It's got the roller rockers are off, so you can see it's got a C9ZE guide plate. Now these guide plates were never designed for the style of push rods that are available today, the hardened ones. They were designed for a push rod like this. Now these look standard, but they're not. These are actually a Ford Racing with a little bit of chromoly in them. Very not easy to find these days, but I was lucky to pick a couple of sets up. These push rods with these guide plates will last a long time because they're compatible. It's what was designed to meant to run together. If you were to run a Trend push rod or a Pioneer or Proflow or any of the Proform or any of the brands out there that are doing like a 516 hardened 80 thou with a one piece, they're so hard that they will actually start to chop these plates out, and these plates are so rare now and so valuable. In that case, you'd be better off getting a set of the AFD adjustable or Myladin or Manley guide plates. There's a lot of brands out there and they're very cheap, you know, so it pays to go new if you want to go to a hardened push rod one piece, which is what I recommend with a roller rocker. So this engine would have had like a steel arm on it, like a GD HO spec engine, but it's got a roller rocker upgrade now on the stud with a poly lock and double valve springs. Yeah, quite a bit of work in those heads. They're a good unit. When you're looking at the 4Vs, guys, see when you have a look at the push rod holes, it's all an individual hole through the head, and the combined Edelbrock Scorpion intake on this. So the Scorpion is like an Edelbrock Talker, but it's got a 1-inch spacer built in under the carby flange here. It's running a Barry Grant Gold Claw 850 with billet metering plates and a billet base plate with a really nice fuel line ready to go. It's got a high energy pulleys, the Bosch electronic ignition, which is a great dizzy which you can pair up with ICE, MSC, Mallory, whatever control box you like. It's running the old school Pro Stock Moroso steel tool rocker covers, and they've been modified with a splash shield for extreme RPM so you don't fill your filter up. Hey, one really important thing, guys, before I finish this video I want to talk about is the oil pump they used with the system. They used the standard volume oil pump, blueprinted, with a high pressure spring. So you want that little bit more oil cushioning at the main bearings and in the places where you need it and around the lifters and everything, but you don't want so much oil getting out of the crank case or the sump into the top end that you end up with the cavitation, aeration issues. And so that's just another little tip there. Now, one thing that's pretty cutting edge about using the standard volume oil pump is these days with the hydraulic roller cams and some of the high performance camshafts that are available, it actually pays to still use. So a lot of this technology that seems a little bit funny, like the way they've tapped into the block end with the oilings to change it from Cleveland oiling style to a Windsor priority mains, and the way that they've run the standard volume oil pump, you know, would have seemed crazy back in 1974 when he came up with this system. But a few things have led on, like the oil line returning from the front of the block here over to the back. You know, guys, you can never hurt to have an external filter and cooler with more oil volume, and to control your oil flow, cooler oil is more power straight away and a happier engine. There's a few little things that are really cool about this. So hopefully you enjoyed that video. It might be a bit long. Make sure you smash the like and subscribe, guys. Thanks for watching. Alright, stop it and I'll get that in.